And at 10, Dave Miller. In the novels, Afton is described as being overweight around the time that the actual serial killings occur, but he eventually lost the weight while in his Dave Miller persona, which comes from the FNAF novels, particularly in the Silver Eyes. As Dave, William is stated to be tall and was described as being sallow and thin, with his skin sagging in appearance. His face was poorly shaven and his eyes looked unfocused and sunken, I relate. His security guard uniform doesn't seem to fit him properly, and the uniform was grubby and torn in places. With his name tag hung askew on his chest, the scar on his neck was also ugly and curved, almost like a perfect half moon, and the same scar appeared on the other side of his neck. In the graphic novels, Dave is depicted as having brown messy hair and gray eyes. He wears a security uniform, his shirt is white and his black tie and his black pants, and due to the spring lock failure incident, there are endoskeleton arm marks on him where his arms are. Yeah, you know, that's also where how he got the 2 scars on the back of his neck, the spring lock. And at 9, Vanny. Vanny is possessed by Glitch Trap, a reincarnation of William Afton, and appears as the main antagonist of FNAF Security Breach. It's also revealed in the Princess Quest minigames that she was the main protagonist of FNAF Help Wanted, the character that we play as, where she actually ended up first getting corrupted by Glitch Trap when we beat the game. She also plays a role in FNAF AR Special Delivery, but that's beside the point, really. Vanny wears a white bunny costume that has stitching all over it with a large pink tartan stitch on her left hip. Vanny is shown to be murderous and evil as she attempts to trick her target Gregory into falling into a trap by pretending to be nice and well-meaning as Vanessa. She seems to cower in fear of her master Glitch Trap as shown in scrap dialogue, but she also quivers when she's actually talking about him. She's also uncertain, based on her voice, when being confronted about her task, implying that she was first hesitant to kill people. However, by the time the security breaches come around, she's either already killed 9 children at the Pizzaplex, as seen in a newspaper article, although they could have also just been captured, or it's just that Glitch Trap has more control. And while she wasn't around much in the game, technically being possessed by Glitch Trap makes her a version of William, so suck it, haters. And at 8, Scrap Trap. William returned once again in FNAF Pizzeria Simulator with a new design, this time dubbed Scrap Trap. While he does retain some key physical details from Springtrap's design though, there are some major differences. Unlike his previous design where his interior was mostly machinery, now it seems to be almost entirely organic, and it shows his human skeleton as well as his old flesh with 5 bony fingers on his right hand. And the reason as to why William is so much more detailed this time, probably because more of his body can actually be seen, and you can actually see his full body in like the alley in one of the boot screens. There are way more torn patches in his suit this time with multiple metal wires and exposed and other bits, and he lost his forearm for some reason. Half of his ear is gone, like the last version, and the rest of his right ear is gone. His feet now have fabric over them with 3 large toes. His eyes no longer glow and now they look completely metallic. The mask also has some significant differences with much larger eye sockets, a black nose, a square muzzle, a singular pair of buck teeth, and a row of at the top with like small sharp needle teeth at the bottom too, as well as just being differently proportioned, which begs the question, how the hell did this happen? Artistic license is the actual answer, but in universe I have no idea how his head got bigger. And it's 7, Henry. And while we did mention killing Charlotte, why didn't you off her dad after you realized that he knew everything? Like, why did you think that killing Charlotte would not have any consequences? Like, you killed your business partner's daughter. That's gonna be pretty obvious to him, especially when he already suspected you were up to something. Hence the green bracelet that he gave her, since he was trying to take extra care to protect her and then she still died. I mean, he could have done more, but that's still a vengeful father if I've ever heard of one, okay? And he hasn't even needed vengeance at that point when he gave her the bracelet. So then, you know that he's gonna come after you, or at least seems like he will, so why didn't you kill him next? Killing Henry could have done wonders for your criminal career. I mean, yeah, the cops are already suspicious, but as long as they can't find a body, you're gonna be clear again. Like, yeah, or even if you're paying them off, you'll be fine. They won't put you away for 5 missing kids. They won't put you away for a missing father as well, especially a jury who has to be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that you are the killer. And then without a body, there's no real forensic evidence. And again, they didn't put you away for missing kids, so like, come on, just finally off Henry, and then you'd be able to stay as yourself or even Springtrap alive and then not get burned 3 separate times. Plus your son would be alive, so yeah. Well, Michael would be, not Crying Child. And at 6, Princess Quest. The whole reason Princess Quest is a thing in Security Breach was to lock Vanessa away and prevent her from regaining control of her own body, or at least all of it. So why did William create or allow for the creation of a sort of failsafe that allows her to escape? I mean, sure, they didn't expect some random kid to come along and figure it out, maybe, but given the track record of this series and Afton's life, you'd think that maybe he would have smartened up, at least after 40 fucking years. But, cause like, this is like having a self-destruct button on a bomb. Or if the Flash has like a steal all my speed button that someone can just press, it's just stupid. Like, if you want something to work, why give it a way to fail? You know? Like, this is like probably one of the dumbest things that Afton has done. You know what? I think there are some dumber things, but depending on the way you look at it, it could have even been higher on this list. But seriously, like, what's the point to put a way to undo your evil plans? Like, it's one of the most ridiculous things in this story. And I get that we can save her and have a good ending, but that ending isn't even canon. So like, we could have done without it. It's stupid at this point. William has the brain capacity of a freaking toddler. Halfway through into number 5, Crying Child. I've had a ton of people complain to me about how Crying Child's death wasn't William's fault since he didn't put Crying Child in Fredbear's mouth, and Michael did that, and then the spring locks failing was because he was crying. Mostly people were complaining about that on TikTok. However, to me, there is no logical way that an animatronic jaw would have crushed his skull. And you know what? Even not just to me. It should be to all of you as well. The spring locks, like, they weren't in use. They didn't have to keep the things to the side because it was in an animatronic mode. And even if it was, an animatronic jaw would require so much power to actually, like, accomplish the closing of that. So like, the only way that Crying Child's skull could have been crushed was if Afton had intentionally superpowered the jaw of Fredbear, which would make sense if he wanted to use it as a kill machine, or maybe even a backup kill suit, or maybe he was originally planning on using Fredbear, but then after his son got crushed in it, he was like, yeah, no, let's move on to Spring Bonnie, okay? This is just the worst way of going about it. There is no way that this was a spring lock failure. The Fredbear suit was already in animatronic mode, meaning that the spring lock mechanisms, which are the things used to keep the robotic parts to the side, which are the things that would have failed, weren't being used. The spring lock failure problem comes from when those mechanisms are put under stress of keeping the robotic bits away from the person inside the suit, and then they fail, and then that's when all the metal parts go back to where they were. So if it's in robot mode, the spring locks can't fail because they're already in use, okay? Keep in mind, again, the term for spring lock in this context is referring to the parts that move the robotic bits away instead of the actual suit, which is also sometimes referred to as a spring lock, but I'm talking about the actual bits that would have failed because they weren't in use. In it for Elizabeth. Speaking of mistakes, what about your daughter? I'm kidding, although we can't really be sure if she was intentional or not, but rather, I mean, what about getting your own kid killed? Like, I don't know how William thought that this was going to work out for him. I feel like this guy just thought, like, how do I capture kids more efficiently? Oh, I know, I can make a robot to lure them in, and then make sure that my kids love the design so that I know it will work. Hey, honey, come here, Dad wants your help designing this thing. Like, what? Because like, then Elizabeth ends up making the most predictable move ever, and then going directly against her father's instructions to see the robot that is basically perfect in her eyes. Like, bro, like, William, why did you think that this was ever going to work out in your favor? Why did you think that this was going to just be all peachy? When has a kid ever listened to a parent, especially at seemingly what her age is, especially when they might be loaded because you have a successful entertainment business, okay? Spoiled rich kids listening to their dads when they say not to touch a giant robot made specifically to appeal to their generation? Yeah, great idea. You are a special kind of stupid. Just like, add a blacklist of kids not to take. Really. I mean, you have facial recognition tech in FNAF 2. So come on, just set up a blacklist. Just do it. Listen to the Shia LaBeouf and just do it. Getting close to the end in number 3, The Curse. The Curse is an Aztec themed skin for the Springtrap animatronic and was released on March 5th in the Ancient Equinox event and is the 4th skin for Springtrap in total in FNAF AR. Curse is a teal colored Springtrap dressed to look like an ancient Aztec warrior, and he has a large feathered crown and a golden chest piece. This guy looks like he's actually decaying finally, which is certainly a better spin on things since decaying bodies aren't purple, even though the series seems to try to push that idea. Bruises are purple, decay is commonly, at least in cartoons and this kind of media, depicted as green, much like how Springtrap's suit in the Curse form is a dark green. This could also be a subtle reference to the fact that Afton is a curse on these games, being unable to get rid of him in any meaningful way, or maybe just about Glitch Trap. He's a curse on the series too. He needs to die permanently, please, for the love of God. But ultimately, in at number 2, Springtrap Rule. One of the most terrifying things that, while not really has happened to anyone in any of the games is the sheer amount of famous internet rule images and videos that there are for these characters. Like, I get it if it's Chica, okay? But like, the worst thing that I think, at least for the terrifying scale, is Springtrap Rule 34 art. The rule basically being that for anything you can find on the internet, there will be some adult version of that content. Unfortunately, FNAF and even Springtrap are not immune to this rule. But just think about this for a second, alright? Just really think. Most people consider William Afton to be dead, even if he's not actually dead. Which means that most people who look these things up are looking at a dead serial killer's rotting corpse stuck inside an animatronic that has shoved every inch of him with metal and want him to shove it into other things. And then think, yeah, damn. That's sexy. I've had people DM me these form of Springtrap images before and they have been instantly blocked. Like, dude, what? He's literally a man who should be dead but is being kept alive by the spirit of one of his victims, those victims being kids, and then you want to see him lubing up Troll Tower? Dude, this is the reason God is dead. Specifically this. Nothing else, just Springtrap Rule 34. Finally, and at number 1, Burn Trap. William appears as the optional yet canon final boss of FNAF Security Breach, named as Burn Trap according to his game files. He only appears in the Afton ending, and this form is a result of Vanny downloading William's soul or code brain from the digital realm into a hybrid of animatronics. I don't even know. Burn Trap's new rotten form appears to be his old one, like a modified, tattered greenish brown spring Bonnie suit, but even more severely withered because he's been through 3 fires, and his entire lower jaw is finally ripped out, revealing the skull covered in blood, which for some reason is still there. His suit is missing fur with the exception of his chest, hips, left foot, upper leg, which were all burned away, revealing more of his corpse and his charred remains. His old endoskeleton has been replaced with some of the endoskeletons from other animatronics, maybe even glam rock animatronics for his hands. He's made taller, and he has claws. God. Just why? And at 9, The Twisted Ones. The Twisted Ones novel starts a year after the Silver Eyes ended, with Charlie in university. One day, however, Clay Burke comes to see Charlie, and for some reason brings her to see a corpse with familiar wounds. This could either be because she would recognize them, or because she was working with the police, or because they had to advance the plot. I don't know, I haven't read the original novels, but I want to. However, looking at the wounds, she confirms that they are in fact a Springlock failure, meaning that we have an unnamed Springlock victim in the Twisted Ones novel. If this character does have a name, like if it's revealed in later down the line or something, please let me know, because I couldn't find one online. However, while this may seem insignificant to you, the real horror of this number comes from what it signifies. This Springlock marks the return of William Afton, since at the same time, Clay also tells her that a blood sample they took from Afton showed that the body was a fake, or at least it was fake blood. The return of a killer, and the purple guy of all of them, that's pretty damn scary if you ask me. And at 8, The New Kid. Continuing with the theme of FNAF books, what about the story The New Kid from 1:35 AM, the third Fazbear Frights book? The story revolves around Devon, Mick, and Kelsey. Devon and Mick are outcasts. They aren't popular, they aren't cool, but when the new kid Kelsey arrives at their school, they make a new friend, despite Kelsey being charismatic and adored by everyone else in the school. Over time though, Devon grows jealous of Kelsey, since Kelsey has everything that Devon wants. So in an act of revenge or to gain control, because you know that's kind of serial killery, Devon hatches a plan to lure Kelsey to an abandoned Freddy Fazbear's to trap him in a Springlock suit for a couple hours, to try to humble him, I guess. But the plan goes horribly wrong. After getting in the suit, the Springlocks fail, as expected, because you know this is a FNAF book, causing Kelsey's blood to soak into the fur of the animatronic and pull around the ground. Devon and Mick leave Kelsey for dead so that they won't get in trouble, but something doesn't feel right. So a week later, Devon returns to make sure that Kelsey's body is still there, for some reason. He sticks his hand into the animatronic's mouth to feel if it's there, and snap! The Springlocks fail yet again, as per usual, and Devon gets his hand stuck inside the suit and bleeds out, but not before seeing a body in the suit, but with black hair instead of Kelsey's blonde hair. If that's not scary, then you need to go see a doctor, because that's bone chilling. that's messed up. No. And it's 7, Glitch Trap. Glitch Trap is the digital manifestation of William Afton that first appears in Help Wanted. Glitch Trap takes on the form of a man wearing a cartoonish Spring Bunny costume based on Spring Bunny's original design from a poster advertising Fredbear's Family Diner. He also wears a purple star speckled vest, a purple bow tie, and 2 black buttons around the top of his chest like he's wearing a suit even though it's literally just fur. He also has stitches across his hands and across like the rest of his body because the suit is supposed to be sewn together because it's all fabric and not an animatronic. And he also has vivid purple eyes, which is the tiniest little pupil, and it's terrifying, which are the first thing visible when he actually starts to appear to the player's right. In blacklight mode, his eyes will actually turn blue with white circular pupils, and he has very large whiskers on the side of his face, 3 eyelashes for some reason on his eyes, and large arching eyebrows, making him just as surprised as I am. While he is unable to jump scare or really hurt you in the game, that does make him less scary, but he is certainly creepy and definitely scarier than Scrap Trap. And it's 6, Purple Guy. William Afton is depicted as the purple guy in FNAF 2, a mysterious purple figure in the FNAF series. In the Take Cake minigame, he is depicted driving up outside of the pizzeria and then killing Charlotte outside of the restaurant. Finally, then he lures 5 children into the back room using cake, and then seen in the Foxy Go 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 minigame, he killed them too. Those are the ones that presumably go on to possess Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, Foxy, and Golden Freddy. The puppet would then give them life in the animatronic suits to save their souls, possibly. Again, we don't know, it's FNAF, I don't know. The wiki is saying a lot of things like it's confirmed, but it's really not. But it is unconfirmed whether William or the puppet actually put the kids in the suits. In the second game, he is implied to be the night guard before Jeremy Fitzgerald, and then after surviving a week on the shift, he was upped to day shift because he complained about the conditions of his workplace. And he threatened to unionize. Get the employers sweating. Then he went on to kill 5 more kids. This version is mostly scary because I remember the lore of trying to figure out who he was, and this series came out when I was in the 10th grade. Alright, that's like when I was 14, since I was born in September and this was released in like the summer. Okay, Purple Guy was created after I was 15. It has been more than 5 years since Purple Guy's been a thing, and I've been suffering ever since. And at 4, Clown Springtrap. Clown Springtrap is Springtrap's 3rd skin and the 3rd skin to be introduced in the Dark Circus event for FNAF AR. Clown Springtrap has a pale white suit and blue and purple makeup above his eyes. He has messy purple hair coming out of his head, and he also has large red lipstick because why not? He's a clown. Clown Springtrap's body is mostly covered by a large suit with ripped up black pants and a black shirt, along with a red and purple vest. He features large red clown shoes along with a large red bow tie and flower on his chest, and his right eyelid has also been stitched up for whatever reason. Finally, he carries around a very large red mallet in his left hand, and considering how clowns are one of the most common fears in the world, I think putting Clown Springtrap on this list is definitely justified, especially when he's intentionally jump scaring you in your own home, even if it's on your phone, okay? The dude is menacing. He has a hammer. It's like Harley Quinn, but not as cute. And he's also basically meant to be a reference to John Wayne Gacy, at least in my head, that's how I understand it, so yeah. And at 3, Am I Real? Am I Real, also known as Cake Bear, is presumably the primary and most recurrent antagonist in Dormitibus. Am I Real has 2 different forms. His first form is Cake Bear. Cake Bear's design originated from the Save Him minigame, where he delivered cake to children while a kid is murdered outside. He is the predecessor of both Fredbear and Freddy Fazbear. Cake Bear is a brown bear animatronic that also acts like a spring-locked suit that appears in most of the main nights. Although they do look similar, the only similarities he has to Freddy Fazbear in reality is that they both possess a top hat, are brown, have blue eyes, and are a bear. Am I Real's second form is a form that resembles Springtrap, however. This form has a green color much like Springtrap and contains human remains. His right eye socket has gotten bigger on the side and a big hole can be seen on the right side of his head. His top hat has received some withering on it as well, and his lower jaw is slanted and worn down, no longer circular like Cake Bear's. He also has a sizable hole in the right side of his torso, revealing organs. Ha, lovely. Rips and tears cover his arms, revealing more human remains. He also appears to be missing at least 1 finger on his right hand, and it's absolutely terrifying to look at. Of course, 3 out of 10 of these are going to be from Dormitibus. Like, what did you think was gonna happen? Did you watch the Dormitibus animatronics list? And ultimately, in at number 2, Springtrap. I believe we all know this story by now. Everything was going well at first. They couldn't pin him down and he was on his way to immortality. Once William discovered Remnant, however, he spiraled. He wanted to use it to fuel his life and make himself truly immortal. So in an effort to study it further, William lures possessed animatronics to the back room that they can't access and uses it to dismantle dismantle them, planning to melt down their endoskeletons to make soul-infused metal. However, by doing this, he unknowingly releases the souls of the victims he claimed oh so long ago. Shocked, he tries to scare them by getting into his spring body suit, which also coincidentally makes him feel more powerful. However, this haste coupled with the leaking in the back room causes the spring locks to fail, crushing him in torturous agony for the next 30 years. However, he didn't die from this. As we learn in the man in room 1280, he was being kept alive by the spirit of another victim. So he was living that agonizing pain for 30 years, and that makes him damn well deserving of the number 2 spot. And before you ask, no, him and Garvey are 2 separate characters, meaning that they can both be included on this list. You're welcome. Finally, in at number 1, you. A spoiler alert for a fan game, and if I say which fan game, it's going to spoil it. So if you want to avoid spoilers, click away now. And thanks for watching. I'll give you a chance to do that now. Okay, now that you've prepared for spoilers, A Shadow Over Freddy's is a FNAF fan game created by FizzNom on GameJolt. It released on April 25th, 2018, and since it was made by the same guy who is currently working on FNAF Plus for the Fazbear fanverse, you know it's bound to be good. The gameplay of A Shadow Over Freddy's is a hybrid between a traditional point-and-click game and a free-roaming horror game. The player wakes up to find themselves with no memories in a black and white abandoned Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and is tasked with surviving 5 nights in escaping the restaurant. The player is given a different task each night and must complete said task before 6 AM and without being attacked by any roaming animatronics. However, the ending of the game has you getting trapped in a spring lock suit and left to rot, meaning that you are a spring lock victim, which is probably the scariest victim of them all, cause I don't know about you, but I'd rather not get spring locked. Although I know there are plenty of you that would just love that. You'd fill the suit with liquids that aren't blood, and that's messed up. Like, I'm not one for kink shaming, but yeah, there's kinks, and then there's like being killed, you know? I don't know how else to put that. And at 10, Cassidy. Assuming for this scenario that Cassidy is the one you should not have killed, which she's not, but you know what, for you guys. This is one of the dumbest things that William could have done. Or maybe he doesn't actually consider it a mistake, since the one you should not have killed, after all, is keeping him alive. They're doing it as a way to make him suffer, though. So since it's potentially a mistake, but could also be considered a good thing depending on the angle, I'm gonna go with number 10 for this one. But even if he does consider that a good thing, or if Cassidy doesn't end up being the one you should not have killed, which he's not, killing those 5 kids that made up the missing children's incident that included Cassidy was certainly a mistake, since it caused literally everything else in his life to go downhill. I mean, it was starting to go downhill, but it started going even worse, okay? And he does end up suffering extremely only because of that kill and the others, okay? So if you don't want to count Cassidy as the mistake, because she's not the one you should not have killed, which is still the case, I don't care what you guys say, I know. Count the missing children's incident itself as the mistake. In at 9, Blueprints. There is no doubting what you've achieved on a technical level. These are clearly state of the art. There are just certain design choices that were made for these robots that we don't fully understand. We were hoping that you could shed some light on those. She can dance, she can sing, she's equipped with a built-in helium tank for inflating balloons right at her fingertips, she can take song requests, she can even dispense ice cream. With all due respect, those aren't the design choices we were curious about, Mr. Afton. This classic line of Afton being interrogated, I'm guessing, that plays the first time you open up Sister Location, just showcases how stupid this man is, okay? The cops know what these animatronics are capable of, and what they were designed to do. And you want to know why? Because the blueprints are just readily available. This man included wireframes of a child being stuck in Funtime Freddy and just left it on his computer. What? Why would you do that? Well, that's so stupid. So when they found that, because you know obviously they're gonna search his computer, they instantly ended up being even more suspicious of him, and then they were keeping an even closer eye on him. That's also probably why he ends up starting to dress in the spring Bonnie suit even, maybe, which ultimately ends up screwing him over as well. So yeah, designing the Funtimes as killbots was definitely a bit of a mistake, but then leaving the wireframes on your computer was something even dumber, especially considering how one of them was meant to symbolize your dead wife, wife, and the other one ended up killing your daughter. And it ate Charlotte. While yes, Charlotte may have been Afton's first true kill, causing his descent into madness, this is more so because of what she really turns into. Because, like, somehow, this also didn't make Henry end Afton instantly, because if he had, I would understand that. But in the games, Charlotte ends up possessing the puppet, who then gives life to the other animatronics, which causes Afton to disassemble them and then release their spirits that then scare you into your spring body suit that crushes you, and then you start going even crazier. But even discounting the game aspect of her, like, killing being a mistake, in both universes where William kills Charlotte, Henry comes after him for it, which results in what should be his death multiple times over. And not to mention how in the books specifically, unbeknownst to her, she is an animatronic robot that was meant to replace the daughter that Henry had lost, but it's also revealed that the animatronic is also, her adult form is also Baby as well, who can switch between her human and baby form at will, and then her human form doesn't remember being Baby. So yeah, Charlotte in the books also ends up being Baby, which is just a huge mistake for both Afton, Henry, and Scott Cawthon. And at 7, Grim Fredbear. Grim Fredbear is one of the antagonists from Final Nights 3 Nightmares Awoken. He's only active on Night 5 and found in the left hallway. Grim Fredbear resembles the normal golden Fredbear suit, only with his suit glowing a deep purple while the interior of the suit glows a bright white. His upper face appears to be torn off, including his eyes, leaving an empty, hollow, gaping hole in its place. The inside of the mask, though it appears like there's nothing really inside, actually conceals a white, pale human head that can only be seen during his jump scare. And before you ask, yes, it's mine. The animatronic is clearly meant to be a reference to Shadow Freddy and the theory that the Shadow animatronics were Springlock victims, which was later confirmed by Scott to be false when stating that William was the only victim of a Springlock failure. And in the museum level, which unlocks after Night 5, it is revealed that Grim Fredbear is a Springlock victim, saying, quote, another Springlock failure victim, the second generation of Fredbear. And at 6, Grim Chica. The first Springlock victim in the Final Nights series, Grim Chica is a primary antagonist in Final Nights 3 Nightmares Awoken. Unlike others, she is not a Reaper animatronic. Grim Chica holds a strong appearance to the Springlock suit on the poster in the Night 3 cutscene, but her faceplates are very hard to spot and she's almost entirely purple. She really resembles Toy Chica. The glowing accents inside of her resemble a human corpse. She lacks a bib unlike the original Chica, and her overall body is very slim like the original Toy Chica, except for her hips, which appear to be much wider. Got the baby birthing hips. I regret that immediately. And she lacks shoulders or upper arms, with her forearms protruding from her armpits. Grim Chica is also revealed to be a Springlock victim in the museum level, saying, quote, a victim of a Springlock failure, forever forced to haunt the suit she is wearing, now being manipulated by your sister and mother. Tried spray on tan, still very pale. Why is that so relatable to me? Like, no matter what I do, I'll always be pale and pasty. Not the whole being manipulated by your sister and mother thing. That's weird. But like, I'm okay with forever being pasty. However, I did rank this above Grim Foxy because, like, it's Chica. And look what they did to my girl Chica. I'm sorry, Mommy Kentucky, for the transgressions. Halfway through in at number 5, Garvey. A psychopathic, cold-blooded killer. He stopped being human long ago. That's how Garvey is described in the extras of Dormitibus, the game from which he hails. Garvey is the penultimate antagonist of Dormitibus, and as a human, he was the man who murdered the missing children. He later went on to get trapped in Spring Bonnie, becoming Springtrap, and then was burnt to a permanent death in the Fazbear Frights fire. Garvey is a more gory version of Springtrap from FNAF 3. However, he is not William Afton, as the game was released before the name reveal, even before FNAF 4. Springtrap, but with hardly any exosuit or animatronic casing, whatever you want to call it. He crawls on all fours and uses his left hand as a foot and his left foot as a hand, like some demonic monkey from hell that Satan didn't sanction the creation of. Just look at this thing and tell me that it shouldn't be on this list. If you do, you'll be lying. And at 4, Golden Call. As a human, when alive, Golden Call's name was Kyle. However, he is now a Springlock victim stuck inside a Golden Freddy Springlock suit. Golden Call has the typical rundown Springlock suit vibe, similar to Springtrap. However, this is even more gruesome. His left ear is bent, he has guts coming out of basically every hole in his body, human eyes are hanging out of the animatronic's eye sockets. He's even missing exosuit on his right foot, and the character is holding a flesh-colored, at least it's flesh-colored, it may be even like fully like a flesh phone in his right hand that stays stuck to his head via more flesh or blood strands connecting to the side of his head. It's horrifying, dude. This is a monstrosity. And looking at his age on the wiki, Kyle was only 5 when he got spring locked, which is absolutely nuts and just flat out horrible. So unfortunate, man. He was supposed to be the next best Fortnite player. That's a joke for the long-term subs. You know it. Getting close to the end, and at number 3, animatronics. Like, how the absolute living hell did he end up getting away with this? The smell of rotting bodies would also ruin the pizza place. The heat from the animatronics insides when they're actually like moving around would also speed up decomposition, and the animatronics are in front of people every single day. They even started complaining that the animatronics were leaking blood of mucus and it was smelling like death. If this was real life and William getting away wasn't important for the plot, he should have been caught on that and that alone instantly. Oh, we never found the bodies of these kids, but now these animatronics are leaking blood and smell like death. Huh, that's not related. Oh, they even make like bone crushing sounds when they move. And nah, we don't need to check these out. Or maybe we should. You know what? Fine, we'll take them in. Oh, look, we found the bodies of the missing kids. William Afton, you're under arrest. Like, boom. I don't see how this wasn't an open and shut case right away. Like, this was so goddamn stupid. They shouldn't have made it to the first game. His whole plan was a dumpster fire of bad ideas. And even if you think it was the puppet who put the bodies in the suits, why would they do that? Like, why would they hide the bodies? And finally, in at number 1, the platinum rule. The biggest mistake that William has ever made, and I will stand by this until the day I die, was the fact that he killed people in his own establishment, okay? It's unknown if this was always his intention, or maybe if he planned to kill somewhere else and then just was like, no, I'll do it here. But, like, come on. Who the absolute hell thinks that this is a good idea? Who in the comments wants to justify killing your prime demographic for your business? Okay, dealers don't kill their best customers. It's bad for business. So why would William think that this is a good idea? Literally go anywhere else. This is basically just killing someone in your house. Okay, it's putting unwanted and unneeded scrutiny on everything you do. You even end up getting banned from going back while the investigation is underway. It didn't help your business either, okay? You had to close the first location, resulting in you opening another one that killed your daughter, and then you had to close that one and open up a new one, which ends up getting closed, and then you get locked in a room for 30 goddamn years, okay? This one mistake leads to literally everything else in the series. You don't do that. The platinum rule, we learned this from Barney Stinson. Don't crap where you eat, okay? If you just don't do it.